Well, hello again, folks. We are deciding to venture out into this, which is, I don't know, they're telling you not to do, although it's not really hit yet. Like, really hit yet. Seen a couple of cars wandering around. You don't see a lot of shit happening. We're going to walk down to the ocean wall and do a comparison to the way it was. It is now about, what, 9 o'clock, I think? What? Yeah, blowing you over? It's like 9 o'clock, so we're going to go check it out. Alright. Alright, I'm sure you can't hear me. I'm really up close to the microphone. Maybe you can hear me because I'm in a little patch here. But you're probably not going to hear me now. We're coming up on the sea. A lot of wind. The sea is really loud. We got to wait for some traffic here. Test. Like, I have to lean into the wind. Come here. Come over here. Come on. It was so windy that she could barely move without getting blown over. The rain hurts on right across the street. The rain was pelting so hard coming sideways it felt like sand blasting you in the face. Here, and you couldn't tell. It wasn't all rain. A lot of it was sea, like spray coming up off the rocks and splattering you in the face, getting whipped up by that 50-mile-an-hour winds, or how high they were. This is before. This is still. The storm was still kind of brewing at this point. But we were getting hammered pretty hard, so we decided, let's head back. Well, now that we got sprayed with sea spray, you're just soaked. I put my winter coat on, so it doesn't come through this yet. Anyway, that was fun. More as the storm progresses. Merbok. Tropical storm. Extra tropical storm Merbok. Extra tropical. That sounds like some sort of marketing ploy for gum. This gum is extra tropical. Anyway, I'm guessing that means that it's not in the tropics and isn't a warm weather front. It's a cold. Anyway, we're going back inside. My hands are cold. It is 9:30, day 2 of the storm. We walked down to the ocean yesterday. We're going to walk down to that same place today and do a comparison and see what it looks like. From the house here, it looks like Front Street, which is the road that we were on yesterday, is full of debris, and the waves might be crashing over it a little bit. So we're going to walk down there, be really close, really careful not to get too close, and see what we see. A lot of the traffic now that normally comes through is coming through on this road here, which would normally go down front, so I don't know. We'll see. Well, there's definitely flooding that we can see. Oh yeah, look at this. Here we go. So at this point, the wind had really picked up, and you can see the waves crashing over the seawall, the rocks there. And here it just pours down the road. Yeah, you can see the debris. The wind had blown over the barrier there, and you can see in the gutter just the amount of water that's running off. It had also started to erode the corner there where the culvert and stuff would be. It just undercut it, and the blacktop just kind of disintegrated. We were also getting sprayed with sea spray. By the time we got home, all we could taste was salt. This intersection is really just 2 blocks from where we live. The water didn't get much past the first block. It didn't really, maybe in a couple places did it get that far into town. I find it really amazing how that satellite dish didn't seem to be affected at all. I mean, those winds were massive, crazy. Right here, we're debating whether or not we want to walk up closer to the rubble and the debris there, or if we'd rather just kind of hang back. We erred on the side of hanging back a little bit. I think it just didn't seem safe to get that close to some of that rubble. We weren't sure if it was getting undercut and weak, but we did walk down the street closer to the other side here, or the side away from the sea. So yeah, she's commenting that all of Front Street all the way down was flooded. There were a couple of patches that hadn't flooded out, but for the most part, this is what Front looked like all the way down. Well, at least now the Bering Sea near us should be relatively free of driftwood, considering it all got pushed up into town. I can't wait for the water to go down below there and see the amount of driftwood that's piled up against those rocks. Yeah, so here we're looking at the post office. Between the Polar Cafe and the post office, there's that gap, kind of by the loading docks for the post office. There was, yeah, a chunk of metal roofing hanging on one of the power lines. Yeah, the basement did flood out actually of the post office, and the post office, as of yesterday, was closed until they could fix it. I don't know if they got it pumped out yet and they've reopened. But here's a whole host of still images that I took throughout the day, um, just to kind of set the scene and let you take your time to kind of take a look at them here. Now you have to keep in mind that that rock wall down there has got to be a good 15 feet down to the sandy beach below. So those waves were really coming up. Here you can see the blacktop, that the waves and the power of the water got up underneath the blacktop on the road and essentially just ripped it apart. Here's another good picture of Front and how it's flooded all the way down. Nice thing is, for many buildings, particularly residential buildings, they're up on stilts, so I don't know that they got water in them. Maybe the ones directly on the Bering Sea got hit pretty hard because the water was directly plummeting those. Here's Aura down trying to take some video. She got about that far and decided, yeah, you don't know what's under the water here, so she turned around. Here you can see debris all up and down the road. They're going to have their work cut out for them to fix the road before it starts to get cold and starts to freeze. Or they may leave it until next year. Just let it be rock and whatever blacktop's still there. At least the main drag downtown here is, I don't know, is that concrete or blacktop? I can't, yeah, it looks like blacktop, huh? Never mind. This didn't get ripped up. Probably the buildings helped out. But this is the fire, where that bright light is down there is where the Bering Sea Bar and Restaurant was. You can see all the emergency vehicles here. This happened later in the evening, and I think the way the wind was whipping, it basically acted as a bellows, pushing oxygen up through that fire, which made it basically uncontrollable. Basically. So this is the next day. I saw this couple, and they were leaning into the wind, and here just shows some more flooding. The sea foam that came all the way up the road there and created like a sea foam slick. This is the harbor area. You can see that the water, by this time, had gone down a little bit, but at one point it had been over the road. This is one of the houses right on the sea. They were pumping water out either from underneath. I don't believe they have a basement, but they might have had water in the actual downstairs. I'm not sure. A lot of debris, though. Some of that came from their yard. I think they had a pallet fence where people use pallets to create fences. This is people's backyards. And you can see where these houses are flooded. I mean, they're likely on stilts, so I don't know that the water got in the house per se. It might have. It might have come up to the bottom of the ground floor. Here's some video of the fire when we walked down there. We got down there pretty much after they'd had it under quote-unquote control. I mean, it was still just smoldering and smoldering away. And there'd be active flames now and then, but it wasn't the raging blaze that it had been earlier. A lot of people got some interesting footage or some good footage of the fire.
That fast, the whole thing just gone.
The hotel gone too?
Yeah, everything.
The hotel was not gone, and it got a little damaged, but mostly it was just the bar and restaurant that burned down. Here you can see there's a few flames that keep popping up. I don't know if there was a gas. The gas line probably would have been turned off if there was any.
Say something on camera?
I can't. They won't pick it up. I'll just do voiceover.
Yeah, you should.
Here's some pictures that a friend of mine took, acquaintance, Facebook acquaintance. It took after the fire had been put out later in the night, or they were still taking care of the smoldering elements. Here you can see, based on the wobble there, the impact of the wind on the house and how much it was shaking the house. There's nobody moving. There's nothing making it shake. That table is shaking because of the wind and how powerful that wind is hitting the house. Those lights are mesmerizing. All right, folks. Well, it's all right, folks. So it's Sunday. The storm has largely passed or dissipated. We'll do a quick run around, see what we can see while I run out. I got to get to some provisions anyways, so let's go run around town and take a quick look around. So I know we got some wind going on here, but looks like they can't do it. So I'll voice over here. They had come through with a bulldozer or a case front loader thing and plowed out most of the debris so that at least vehicles could get through. I know further down the coast to the east, the road was completely gone. And one of the bridges down that way had been damaged relatively. This is normally 2 lanes, and a pretty wide 2-lane too.
So this is where the road ended.
And here you can see a lot of that rubble is either rocks thrown up from down on the beach, or I think the majority of it is sand and bits of blacktop that got ripped up by the waves. Across the street you can see the depth of the sand.
Digging out. Yeah, let's go down.
So they got the downtown here mostly cleaned up. You can see all the dirt in the parking lot over there, the parking area over there. Still pretty dirty, but this was completely underwater for a while there, and seems to have cleared up. We got a bunch of debris over there between the 2 buildings. Yeah, well, let's head down to the bar now. So there's the bar, what's left of it, the bar and restaurant. Looks like the hotel got hit too. At least the Nugget's still there, but there was a little restaurant or bar, like hotel attached to that. So. Yeah, looks like they're still pumping water on it, trying to get it to go out. Looks like downtown, otherwise they're getting it cleaned up a little bit. There's a lot of work, looks like, behind the visitor center there that needs to be cleaned up. Yesterday there was sea foam coming all the way up here. This was all flooded over. You can see they came through and plowed the road out. All that sand that got pushed up from the water. Looks like they got somebody letting their dogs run down there. Yeah, this is all underwater. Go down here. It looks like there's still some water. High water. The mega dredge did not launch itself. Obvious the water's high. So here, the microphone cut out, but here you can see a house that I believe was used for storage, I could be wrong, that had come loose and floated upriver. At one point it had been up against the bridge, and the mayor talked about how the bridge is fine, that house will break up. Then you have some people that are down here hunting for treasures that got pushed up over the beach or up onto the rocks and stuff. But that house, they eventually went in and tore it apart.
What are you doing, bud?